Good afternoon. The Black Alumni Council presents the Life of a Leatherneck podcast, and my name is Byron Williams, your host for today. Today we have Mr. Darren Hurd, alumnus of Western Illinois University. Hey, how you doing, Darren?
Feeling great. Happy Sunday. Good to
Happy
be
Sunday
here.
to you as well.
Mr. Byron, I'm sorry, Byron.
Okay, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just enjoying the Sunday. Just got done watching the Bears game. It was a tough loss, but like you said, we're getting those draft picks, so it's bear down.
Oh, there you go, bear down. Bear down, get the best draft pick we can, right?
Right.
All right, well, tell me, what have you been up to? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from the South Side of Chicago, born and raised. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. From the Hunnits, the good part of the Hunnits, I guess you could say, Morgan Park, Beverly area. Graduate of the Morgan Park High School, class of 06, known as the last class with class. I've always been a highly energetic guy, somebody who's socially unique. I'm somebody who always been involved, always doing something, involved in the community. And right now, Steve and I are actually co-workers. I'm a career coach at Family Services, and our job is to professionally develop youth to gain and advance their careers through workplace development and job placement. I also drive Lyft as a side hustle to generate some extra income and spend my time servicing people in the city. I've been involved in the community through various efforts, just mentoring, and also ran a sexual health and wellness organization for a couple years. And right now, my community engagement is teaching people about Bitcoin and blockchain technology through Southside Blockchain. I'm actually wearing a hoodie developed one of our partners, Latavia Berry. It says, crypto rules everything around me. So it's just a good way to promote cryptos and through Southside Blockchain and educating people to make wise decisions with their crypto investments.
Oh, awesome. So tell me, out of all the universities and colleges across the country, you picked Western Illinois. What led you to Western Illinois University, and what year did you get there?
Well, growing up, my father always made the educational decisions for me, except for high school. Like kindergarten, he placed me in this Maria Montessori program, which is sort of like an advanced learning, unique learning educational program. And I remember for high school, I chose Morgan Park, but he actually chose my classes. So I was actually trained by him that he's going to make all my educational choices. But I think he really did that to protect me from making unwise decisions, because the older I get, and even the work that I do now, I see the education that a child receives is going to impact the trajectory of their life, depending on what elementary school they attend, what high school they attend, and what college they attend. So going into college, I had a couple choices. Initially, I wanted to go to UIC because it was in the city. I wanted to study business and whatnot, but I got rejected. Then I had an opportunity to go to Tennessee State, and then I also applied to Western. So initially, I was feeling at Tennessee State more because it was an HBCU. I get to go to the South and just enjoy the HBCU culture that you always hear about, the live atmosphere, the lovely parties, the Greek life, the band, football, all that good stuff, just the culture down there, and just being affirmed through your personhood and through your blackness of having, a black educational background. But then the financial aid award letter came through, and that Tennessee State financial aid was not looking great because I was an out-of-state student at the time, and coming from a working class background, that just wasn't going to be a wise economic decision. Okay. So, Western, they gave me the financial aid award letter, and it just seemed like a good fit. And so my best friend, Demetrius Davison, he was going to Western on a football scholarship, and a couple other people who attended Morgan Park, they were going to Western too. And so my father was like, did you get accepted by Western? I was like, yeah. And I was just laying down watching TV. We were talking casually. He was like, okay, you going there. And that's all she wrote. So fall of 2006, I remember like it was yesterday. It was like August 2006. We was driving through these small towns. I have no clue where I'm going. I have no clue how long it's taking us to get there. I mean, I went there for the orientation, but that seemed like a quick trip to get there. But the actual day of moving in, man, I just had no clue where I was, man. I felt like I was just being taken to a whole different culture. It was like the campus just seemed so unique. It was just much different from a Chicago urban area landscape. I'm just like a fish out of water trying to understand where I'm going. And when I went to my dorm room, I didn't even know where I was at. I didn't even know where my room was. I didn't know how to get there. And actually the first person I spoke to turned out to be a future frat brother, Jonathan Coleman. And he actually helped me find my dorm room. So that was like actually a good start for me, you know, getting ready to join Beta Phi Pi, which I'm gonna get to that decision making later on. But yeah, August 2006 is when I touched down at Western Illinois in Macomb. I actually used to call Macomb Macomb. I didn't know the name of the town was Macomb. That's when Demetrius had to correct me, like, no, it's not Macomb, dog, it's Macomb. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's how much I did not know about the city or the school.
You know, it's nice that your dad was actively involved in your education. Was he also an educator?
No, he was not. My father only went to trade school. My mom, she went to college for a semester, but she was unable to afford it. So, you know, my parents, they just blue collar. My mom was actually the first person that I know of who worked 2 jobs at the same time. So I guess that's where I kind of get my work ethic from. And, you know, my father, he ran a construction business for several years, but, you know, the business ended. So that's where I pick up my entrepreneurial skills from him. Okay. Actually, the bulletin board is right behind me. If I'm ducking my head, you see that top bulletin board, that's my father's business.
Okay.
I built it, that was his construction company, so.
Great. What was your major at WIU, and were you involved in any extracurricular activities or organizations? I know you just mentioned Beta Phi Pi.
Yeah, I started off as business administration, and during that time, I was about 19, 20. I didn't know what I was doing, but I took a class in communication. It was about public speaking. And so I really enjoyed the class. So I'm like, you know what, I'm just going ahead and major in communication. I didn't know much about where the career could take me. I didn't study the future salaries of somebody who had a degree in communication or anything like that. I just took a liking to it. And also being involved, I was a resident assistant for 2 years. And that was some tough work. I mean, it wasn't tough work. I was going through some things in my life at that time as far as sexual health and wellness that really impacted me. And even during that time at Western, that was my first time going to counseling, but seeking help for my sexual issues. And the counseling kind of helped with the porn addiction and things like that, but I did not trust my counselor, so I stopped going. And I think that was a mistake on my behalf, because I should have stayed committed to the counseling, because I honestly believe, looking back on it, the counselors had my best interests at heart. So I was a resident assistant for a couple years. I was president of student government for a year. And then I was also involved in Beta Phi Pi Fraternity Incorporated. So those 3 things. I was always a busybody, trying to do something, trying to make something with my time and just make something of myself and being somewhat of a social butterfly.
Great. Is your major still relevant to your career path now?
Hell yeah, it is. And, you know, being a resident assistant, you know, you learn how to manage a floor and work with people in different personalities. And that transitioned to the work I did as an Airbnb host. I hosted for Airbnb for about 6 years. I actually stopped earlier this year, but learning how to communicate from people from all over the world, learning how to use nonverbal communication with people who don't speak English, making sure I know how to get my message across to somebody to where it doesn't come off as confrontational rather than addressing the issue. You follow what I'm saying? Knowing how to promote and do marketing. I've done some network marketing before. I've done marketing for Lyft, and that was huge because I was unemployed at that time marketing for Lyft. So I had to use my communication skills to go out on the street of Chicago and promote Lyft to strangers who I never knew, and showing them how to set up the Lyft app, order their first ride, and of course, letting them know why Lyft is valuable. I've done some network marketing. The bulletin board is behind me, and that's interesting because you have to do a marketing to point to sale process. There's a marketing to point to sale process for people who are listening, to where the person sees the product or service and they are guided all the way through a point of sale. And every piece of communication matters. Everybody is not factually driven. And what I've learned is that I'm factually driven and information driven. Everybody is not going to communicate on that level. Some people want to communicate on an emotional level. So, for example, if I'm selling some coffee or whatnot, and I'm factually driven, and I can tell somebody, hey, this coffee is good for helping you lose weight, you know, that's factually driven. Versus emotionally driven is like, hey, this coffee is good, it helps people get in shape, and you'll be looking right for hot girl summer. That's more of an emotionally driven communication standpoint that actually caused them to be more interested in the product, if you follow what I'm saying. And even right now at Failings Family Services, I've really learned to tap into the audience's language, even the image, and that, wearing a shirt and tie every day, that's okay, but you're communicating a certain message to your audience that's going to cause a wall to go up, because they associate the shirt and tie method with somebody who's authoritative, such as a judge or a lawyer or a prosecutor or somebody who's going to be enforcing some rule. So what I've learned was to kind of tone it down a little bit and be more fashionable and trendy. And that way it's able for them to open up to me. Because if I'm wearing a pair of Yeezys or a pair of fresh Nikes or some Timberlands, they could start off with compliment by saying, yo, those are some nice sneakers. So we could have a conversation about sneakers for about 5 to 10 minutes before we even get into career planning, and things like that build up rapport. So, I say it to say, learn how to speak to people, learn how to speak with people, exactly, in a way that reaches the heart and mind. That's very important as well. Reaching their heart and mind and things that they value, and your communication skills make a big difference. I know that was long-winded, but hopefully I got some points of value in there.
Oh no, this is your show.
Okay.
We just want to hear from you, and a great response. Also, I wanted to ask a quick question, follow-up question. Mm-hmm. So what is an Airbnb host? I know what Airbnb is, but what is the host? What is the responsibility of a host?
The host is responsible for welcoming people into the home, making sure they know their way around the home, making sure they have everything they need to be okay. They need their bedding, they need their towels, they need to know where the front door is, they need to know where the back door is, they need to know how to lock the door, how to unlock the door, the buzzers, the entry buzzer, talk, listen, how to operate an American shower, how to operate an American bath, how to operate American appliances. I'm saying this because I used to host people who visited the University of Chicago, and those people came from all over the world. So a lot of times, some of those people never even visited America before, and they came to the south side of Chicago. And just to give you some idea where they're going, the 63rd and Cottage Grove. So imagine what that's like around 2015, 2016. I know the neighborhood's changing a little bit right now, but back then, somebody who's never been to America before, they hopping off the Cottage Grove Green Line, and somebody's trying to sell them some loose squares, trying to get them to buy a Tray 5, talking about mixtape. They might see people on stand on the corner cussing, things like that. So that's a shock value. So your goal as an Airbnb host is to build trust and comfort during the entire stay, and making sure the bedding is okay, the lighting is okay. And the target audience I had was mainly young people, about 18 to 25 years old, college students. They just kind of new to the world, new to the American way of life. So you have to let them know where all the restaurants are, let them know how to get food at the local grocery store, making sure they're okay from beginning to end, being there for the check-in, and being there, well, sometimes I wasn't really there for the checkout, but definitely being there for the check-in and having that process the way they have a good Airbnb experience. So it is a rewarding work in the field of hospitality, but you really have to learn people. You have to know people skills, and you have to be hospitable. That is very key. If you're somebody who doesn't like people like that, then I don't think Airbnb is for you. If you're sociable and you're able to read people's personalities and understand that shelter is a basic human need, then Airbnb is a good venture for you.
Great. So Darren, what was your most memorable moment at WIU, and why?
The most memorable moment was winning SGA president. We won by 1 vote, and that was Christopher Mortimer and I. And our competition, I'm not gonna say their names, but the domino effect of that, the people who lost and the people who supported them, that was really intense, because people don't like to lose. We're humans, we want our desired outcome. And so when people don't get the outcome that they want, they look to vent or carry that energy on to someone else. And I remember a guy who I didn't get along with. Well, I'm not gonna say that. A guy who we just had separate personalities. they recruited me I was recruited to pledge a certain fraternity. And I had a few fraternities in mind, but one of them was a more historic fraternity and the other one was Beta Phi Pi. And I just remember the behaviors that they had towards me versus Beta Phi Pi. They were more so welcoming towards me. They respected my personality. We had the same interests at heart versus this other fraternity where we just had different personalities, even though that fraternity is highly historical. Many great figures in the Black community as part of that fraternity. But, you know, we just did not seem to see eye to eye on things. And I just learned how they was really gossiping about me, saying that I was gay and saying that I was weird and socially awkward. But they knew that my work ethic and what I could bring to the table would benefit the fraternity. So that drew their interest. So I chose Beta Phi Pi. Even though Beta Phi Pi is quote unquote non-hazing, you know, that fraternity was known for being hazing and things like that. And, you know, they tried to come up with the justification that I didn't choose them because I didn't want to get hazed. I didn't want to take any wood or things like that, try to call me soft or whatnot. And it really came to a battle when I was in the library by myself, minding my business, studying. And this is the day after I won. So I was just calling everybody. And he was actually one of the few people that I called, letting them know that I won and things like that. And while we were on the phone, he was like pausing, like not trying to congratulate me. You know how you get that distant air from people sometimes. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's kind of odd that he would react like that. And so after winning, you know, I'm in the library, just relaxing and studying. I forgot what I was reading. And I'm just sitting down at the table with myself and I could hear him scoff. Like he came walking in the room. If I go to the library right now, I could show you the exact table where I was at if they still got the same design. And he walked in. I remember what he had on. I remember what he was wearing. And he just scoffed. He was like, ugh. So he came and sat down. So I'm just minding my business because he felt like he could just be welcome into my home space. And so he was like, well, congratulations. And I was just like, thank you. And then, you know, he kind of seemed a little bit defeated. Like he didn't get the outcome that he wanted. He wanted our opponents to win because, of course, that's going to help his social status. You know, politics is a lot about status and resources. And I've taken a step back from politics for the time being. And being on the outside looking in, you see how people form their social circles based on what they have to gain within that type of environment. And things can get really ugly, even if it's on a basic college level, even if it's on a playground politics level, things get really ugly and heated. And, you know, he's trying to talk about me, trying to tell me about myself. And I'm just not even feeling it. I'm just trying to get through studying. And he kind of said some things, you know, I don't like you and you could be good, but you can't be great. And I kind of reverted back like, you know, what's that supposed to mean? Like you throwing all this heat my way. And he kind of got up and walked off. And right there in that moment lets me know like, hey, if you headed for something, you don't have to be all dirty and snobbish and be insulting towards people. You have to stand your ground and you have to keep your composure. Because the more success you try to attain in life, the more people go talk about you, the more people go want to see you not do well. And you just got to keep your humble heart and keep your heart and mind in the right place and just do what needs to be done and keep it moving. Know who your true friends are, know who supports you, and cater yourself that way. So being SGA president was a lot of fun. You learn the inside operations of the school, which is interesting because Macomb is very conservative. And, you know, I'm being from Chicago, I'm more used to a liberal environment to where go out, do your own thing, and just be productive. But I think one thing that was unique to me was that I actually used to give tours to campus to prospective students. And they always used to like me being around, telling them the real deal about the school and how the student culture is on that campus. So that was a lot of fun.
Great. Besides being the SGA president, what are some of the experiences at WIU or that are responsible for your success today?
I think being a resident assistant made a huge impact because it taught me the value of work-life balance. Back then, I wasn't very good at it because I felt like being an RA consumed so much of my time. But what I learned was you're still gonna have to do work done and get your education at the same time. You're not well off. So if you do somehow drop out of school or things don't go well, it's not like you could just contact a family member that could fund your business dream. You know, you're gonna have to work your way through life. and it taught me some values of maintaining relationships with people. Back then, I think I could have learned a little bit better on how to respect people's personalities and be open to receive their personhood. I'm trying to say that the best way I can, but as a young man, I was still growing up myself. So I just like to say, just maintaining that work-life balance, making sure that I take care of all my responsibilities and just enjoy myself socially as well.
Great. So if you could talk to a younger version of yourself, a 17, 18-year-old Darren Hurd, what advice would you give them?
First thing I would say is you need to practice semen retention, put down the pornography, losing your man seeds and, paying too much attention to sex has a very strong impact on your heart, body, and soul. You really deplete your masculine energy, and you need that masculine energy to get work done. You need that masculine energy to focus on life, and you need that masculine energy to be the best version of yourself. So you need to value your sexual energy and your manhood at the same time. Also, I would tell him, I know you're a sociable guy and you like partying and you like being socializing with people, you like, interacting with people, but everybody's not going to be an extrovert. Some people are introverts. They don't like people all in their face, talking to them 24/7 and always having something to say. Everybody's not going to be your friend, even though you want to be friendly with people, everybody's not going to be friendly towards you. Also, I'm not going to say don't date where you work. However, separate business from dating can work to your advantage. Because remember, you're a black man in the world, hate to say it, but you got certain people that can easily label you as a threat if they don't get what they want from you. And when you throw sex in the mix, too much emotions can get involved. So separating the business from pleasure allows you to be more productive in the business setting. It allows you to be higher productive in the workplace setting, and you maintain those workplace relationships versus trying to date and mac and, getting intimate with people that you're doing business with. Things can go awry, and you're the man. So in those dynamics between men and women, you're most likely going to be the one labeled as a threat. You're probably more likely to be having to explain your behaviors to a board, and you're probably more likely to be let go from the job. So separate that business from pleasure. Just focus on your work and leave the dating in the dating realm. Don't bring that into business. That's what I'll tell you.
Great advice. Now, you said you were involved with Bitcoin. I know historically, when you look at investing, in Europe, they had an era called the tulip mania era, where it was an emotional decision to purchase tulips, and they drove the price up back then, and then it crashed because, of course, a tulip is really a flower. It's not a product. It's not a service, but everyone was investing in tulips in order to make money. And most recently, you had the .com era, where a lot of individuals invested in, and institutions, they invested in whatever .com company came along. And of course, some of those crashed. There were some good companies that came out of that era, but there's lots of them, hundreds of them that never made anything, but they lost individuals and institutions money. And now currently we have Bitcoin. You have the Bitcoin era. Like, you got the Shiba Inu that made millionaires overnight, and you have other ways. People are going to jail now regarding these Bitcoin companies. So tell me, what's going on with Shiba Inu? I know it doesn't really have a product or a service. So how much do you know about this? And can you educate us, in 5 or 10 minutes? What's going on out there?
Yes, I can. And that's the thing. Do you have any type of statistical data on those tulips? And what were the businesses that were selling those tulips? And what was the use case behind those tulips? So tulip mania seems like it was just monkey see, monkey do. Now, the .com area, I was a child when that happened, but it just seemed like the internet was growing so fast that any idea for a website seemed like a good idea. But what was the use case behind those websites? All right. Google was a great idea because it was a way for people to access information. YouTube was a great idea. It was a way for people to access video. Yahoo was a great idea. It was a great way for people to receive their mail. So historically, it's just been proven to show if something has a valuable use case, it's going to stay around. Now, the issue with those cryptos like Shiba Inu and a couple other ones is that they don't have a valuable use case and they have unlimited potential. And those are called centralized coins, and that there's probably one entity that controls the whole supply. Bitcoin is far different. It is a limited supply of coins. It's only going to be 21 million, and that the difficulty to actually mine or create a Bitcoin is so high that makes it valuable. Every transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain is valuable. Is valid. Every transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain is valid. I know you hear about those people who said they spent their last $100 on Shiba Inu and 6 months later they made $1 million. That happened during a Bitcoin bull market, okay? That means that when the price of Bitcoin was going up, all those other altcoins were going up as well at historical rates, because Bitcoin is the backbone of the entire blockchain industry.
What does blockchain mean? Now, when you say blockchain, exactly what is that?
It's basically a decentralized protocol to store information or transactions, okay? So let's say that I send a Bitcoin to you, Steve sees that because he's part of the blockchain protocol. And if Steve sends a Bitcoin to me, you would see that. You would see it all on what's called a digital ledger, okay? Every single transaction is posted on a digital ledger for everybody to see. And on a Bitcoin blockchain, every single one is valid. So that's basically what a blockchain is. And you could do more than just Bitcoin. You could sell art, like digital art through an NFT. You could sell property on the Bitcoin blockchain. You could store laws and congressional hearings on the Bitcoin, on the blockchain. You could do a lot with it. So it's basically solves the solution of accessing information and transactions without having anybody manipulate it. And what's valuable about the Bitcoin blockchain is that it is so hard to hack into that if somebody hacks into it, the whole blockchain would just throw that hacker out, because you don't hack into the Bitcoin blockchain one time. You have to continue to hack into it. That's how strong the network is. And I say that to say Bitcoin is special because it's decentralized. It's not centralized like a Shiba Inu. It's not centralized somewhat like Ethereum. It's decentralized, that people are mining and plugged into the Bitcoin network from all over the world. In that, Bitcoin is not controlled by any bank or government. Now you have some governments that are involved in it. And in fact, the United States government owns 1% of all Bitcoin. They don't want to tell you that, but it's shown on the blockchain who has what Bitcoins and where those addresses lead to. So that's a proven fact. So through it all, Bitcoin is not a get rich quick scheme. It's not like the Shiba Inus of the world to where you throw $100 in it and 6 months later you got $1 million during the Bitcoin bull market. It is a valuable reserve asset that could be used for long-term investment. Now, I got into Bitcoin way back in 2017, which sounds crazy because I remember like it was yesterday. I learned about Bitcoin in 2014. I used to sell coffee at a network marketing company with a business partner / friend that I met down at Western Illinois University. He and I met and we became roommates. We went to business together, and safe to say that was the end of our friendship, because you see the difference between how people are as friends versus how people are as business partners. Same way you will see somebody as a coworker versus as somebody that you dated, and you see a whole different side of their personality. But even with him being a business partner, he and I, like I said, we just had different approaches to doing business. So we kind of went our separate ways within that one business entity. So one day I met a guy, we meet up at a cafe, we getting ready to talk business. And he says to the cafe clerk, "Can I pay for my drink in Bitcoin?" That's when I first heard about it. So I looked into Bitcoin at the time, and I'm seeing what it is. It's his own payment network, developed over the internet. It's exclusive. And I looked at the price point of it. I'm like, man, I'm not going to pay for that. I'm going to just continue to work this business. And business went through, business failed. And this bulletin board underneath my father's business is probably the most valuable resource that I got from it that I did. But that was a learning process. Excuse me. So about 2016, early 2016, I was laid off from, excuse me, I got to edit that out. Early 2016, I was laid off from a program manager position. I was running a mentoring program for young males. I was trying to be Mr. Nice Guy and do all this good work for the community and stuff. And later on in that summer 2016, I began blogging about, human sexuality, sexual health and wellness. I began blogging about sexual health and wellness, just writing my thoughts out and just sharing over the internet, and that gained some traction. And then in about early 2017, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do some sexual health and wellness work for you. So I began doing workshops on sexual harassment prevention and rape prevention and respecting various sexual orientations. I used to visit different high schools and community organizations, and it was for youth, like high school age youth and elementary age youth, and they tended to enjoy it. But the issue was I wasn't making any money. So I'm in business, not making any profit, and I started attending these entrepreneurship workshops. And one day, one of the guest presenters began talking about Bitcoin. How this could be, an investment vehicle long-term, and it went on from there. So I went and spent about a year investing in Bitcoin. I started learning about the technology, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'm like, man, this is really interesting. But I'm going to all these Bitcoin and the blockchain events, and everything's on the north side or downtown. Now I'm living on the south side, but all these events are on the north side or downtown. And the only time I'm hearing about Bitcoin from people within our community is when they just trying to sell drugs. I'm just like, man, we could possibly do more with this. We could teach our community about this, where they can learn from it and actually use it as a valuable investment. So around 2018, a couple high school classmates and I, Latavia Berry and Ron Daniels, recreated the community group Southside Blockchain. And before the pandemic, we used those meetups at different local businesses and whatnot. And people would come there and learn about Bitcoin, blockchain, and support local businesses like restaurants and things like that. So that's what I've been doing as far as the Bitcoin thing. And we got a Facebook group, Southside Blockchain, and everybody who's listening, we only share valuable information about Bitcoin and blockchain. We never promote anything. We're not trying to sell you anything. We just promote valuable information that'll help you make wise investment decisions with your crypto investments. So recently in the news has been the downfall of FTX. Now that was a big issue because it shows that you never leave your cryptos on exchanges. You always store them in a hardware or cold storage wallet, or even a software wallet like somewhere on your laptop, because you can have a centralized exchange behind a coin, like the guy from FTX, and he was taking people's money and they thought that they were buying Bitcoin, but he was taking their money to buy and invest his own token, FTT. And he was also taking their money to invest in Solana. So he was taking their money, loaning it out, leveraging it, thinking that everything is going well during a Bitcoin bull market. When things are going well, and you see all the Steph Curry commercials with FTX, and you see the Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen commercials with FTX, and you see this whole list of different advertisements about FTX, and everything is going great because Bitcoin is doing well. So when Bitcoin is doing well, everybody looks like a genius. However, the bear market comes around, Bitcoin falls in price, and reports coming out about FTX saying like, hey, this company is misusing people's funds. This guy has been abusing people's funds because he got greedy. Had he just invested in Bitcoin and Ethereum, everything would have been fine with the company. But he has his own idea to pump up his own centralized coin that only he and a few other people can control, and things went haywire from there. So if you're listening to this podcast, I encourage you to just focus on the basics, Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's it. You don't have to get fancy with it. I know you may see people pumping out their Lamborghinis and buying the mansions for their Shiba Inu coins and things like that. No disrespect to Shiba Inu, but that's pretty much not going to be doing it good for you. Bitcoin and Ethereum is most likely the way to go. And also you have to do your own research. Read the Bitcoin white paper, study Ethereum protocol, study the risk involved, and understand how well you can invest at your own risk and reward approach. All right. Back in 2017, in my life, I was about 29, 30 years old, no wife, no kids. My risk level was pretty high and open. So I put my life savings into it. Now, I went through a bear market in 2018. That didn't go well. But even during that bear market, I use an investment approach that I still use today, which is called dollar cost averaging. That is, you put your money into any investment at a steady pace. So every week, I invest about $90 into Bitcoin, $10 into Ethereum. I do that regimented. And a couple years later, about 2021, I took out my initial investment. So now I'm still sitting on a profit. That dollar cost averaging makes a big difference in the outcomes of your investment. People throwing in their life savings all at once, taking their whole paycheck and just investing into a certain coin, that's a little bit too hard. You just want to take a nice steady pace into your investment and watch the investment grow over time. That's the value of Bitcoin, is that it's time valuable money, that through time, it becomes more and more difficult to mine a Bitcoin. Bitcoin becomes more scarce, therefore it is more valuable. And you cannot increase the supply of Bitcoin because you, the individual, don't have the power to do so. The whole entire Bitcoin community can agree to increase the value, to increase the supply of Bitcoin, and that's most likely not gonna happen. So like I said, dollar cost average, understand your risk and reward, have an actual plan of how you want to do this, and then if you want to cash out at a certain point, you're more than welcome to do that. But you need to do this with a bona fide plan and approach that is healthy for you. So that's how I did it. If people want to ask me, well, what'd you get out of Bitcoin so far? People always test you with that way. What did you gain? I gained a lot of knowledge about investments. Southside Blockchain, we have over 300 members in our Facebook group. Everybody's learning. Everybody's making valuable decisions. Me personally, I've been able to get my teeth straightened out. I got braces, bought a new car, and got out of debt with the dollar cost average approach. So that's what's working for me so far. And I'm just going to keep doing it this way. It's not going to be fancy. It's not going to be glamorous. It's actually pretty boring investing this way, but it generates a valuable outcome, and the experience, most of all, is teaching you patience. So there's that.
You still investing dollar cost averaging in Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Yeah, I bought some this morning.
Okay, great. Oh, great information, Darren. I appreciate that. You sharing that information with our audience. Any last comments for all of the Leathernecks out there?
Well, I understand that, the college atmosphere is different nowadays. And there's this thought that people don't need college. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. People need college, and more importantly, people need school. School and college teaches you so many social skills, and it may not be the leeway to having this grand career. And I know you hear about the stories of, well, such and such person dropped out of college and they created this grand business, but yet and still, college can teach you entrepreneurial skills. College teaches you how to socialize with people and get along with people. Colleges build bonds, as you can see right here. Myself, you, and Mr. Hodges all attended Western Illinois University. So we need to value school and education. There are certain skills that you can learn. Also, I'm seeing a rise in school shootings all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on with that. Like those young guys who got killed on campus at the University of Virginia. We got to improve our attitudes about school. It's not just gonna be a place to where you can throw your life away. It's not gonna be a place to where you could just disrespect. School is important, college is important. You don't have to choose Western Illinois University, but if you wanna experience some life that's different from an urban environment, and if you do wanna experience a conservative environment and actually learn those people, then it may be a good place for you. So, no regrets on ever attending Western Illinois University.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate you attending this podcast. Great information, and you are a Leatherneck legend.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
All right.